The most dangerous thing about the Tesla Model 2 is not the price. It is the possibility that you trust the wrong promise, buy into the wrong idea, and end up with a car that looks modern on paper, but quietly makes your life harder every single day. If you are a man over 65, you already know the truth nobody likes to say out loud. At this stage of life, one bad car decision is not a minor inconvenience. It can drain retirement money, increase stress, and chip away at your independence 1 month at a time. So today, I am not here to sell you excitement. I am here to ask one brutally simple question. Does the Tesla Model 2 give control back to older drivers, or does it demand that older drivers surrender control to the machine? The one standard that matters. Most channels are still talking about price, battery chemistry, leaked factory plans, and delivery dates. That is not where the real decision lives. The real decision is much more personal. When you're driving to the doctor, picking up medication, visiting your daughter, or heading home after dark on a wet freeway, do you feel that the car serves you, or do you feel that you are working for the car? That is the standard today. Not hype, not fantasy, not brand worship. Control. Let us start with the first place older drivers lose control in modern cars. The screen. You know the feeling. You want cooler air, but the climate icon is buried in a menu. You want to change the fan speed, but the button you need is now a tiny symbol on a glossy panel that reflects sunlight. You want the hazard lights, but your eyes leave the road long enough for your pulse to jump. That is not progress. That is cognitive tax. And the older you get, the more expensive that tax becomes. A younger driver can recover from a bad interface with annoyance. An older driver pays in attention, fatigue, and stress. At 70 miles per hour, a few seconds of menu hunting is not a design problem. It's a safety problem. That's why the most important rumor around the Model 2 is not whether it can sprint fast or park itself. It's whether Tesla finally learned that older drivers need direct control for the things they use every day. Temperature, defrost, volume, wipers, hazard lights, a speed display that's always easy to read. Real controls, immediate response, no guessing. If Tesla gets that right, the Model 2 becomes more than an affordable EV. It becomes a machine that respects aging hands, aging eyes, and an aging nervous system. And that matters more than another flashy feature ever will. If Tesla gets it wrong, then even a cheap price can become a trap that keeps asking older drivers to adapt to a car that never adapts to them. The real cost of losing control. Here is the part many channels skip. A bad interface costs money, not just in theory, in real life. Confusion leads to hesitation. Hesitation leads to mistakes. Mistakes lead to curb rash, fender damage, stress, fatigue, and in some cases, an accident that changes your insurance bill for years. A car can be affordable at purchase and still become expensive because it constantly asks too much from the driver. That is why older buyers do not really want the cheapest car. They want the least punishing car. A car that does not nickel and dime them with attention. A car that does not turn simple tasks into small daily battles. A car that does not make every drive feel like a lesson in software compliance. This is where the Model 2 could be genuinely important, if Tesla is serious. Not because it will end all car bills forever, that is fantasy language, but because it could reduce the silent friction that wears older drivers down. Imagine 2 mornings. In the first, you get into your current car. The seat is too low, the menu is cluttered, the steering wheel buttons do too many things, and the warning chimes start before your coffee is even settled. In the second, you step into a car with a slightly higher seat, a calmer dashboard, a physical temperature dial, large text, predictable alerts, and one simple driver assistance button you can use or ignore. That second car is not just easier, it's cheaper emotionally. And emotional cost is real when you live on fixed income and limited energy. The seat, the door, and the body you drive in.
Now, let us talk about something engineers often treat like a footnote, and older drivers treat like a daily reality: getting in and out. If a vehicle is too low, too tight, or too awkward, you feel it every trip. Knees remind you, hips remind you, lower back reminds you. You do not need a dramatic injury for this to matter. Repeated discomfort is enough. It slowly changes where you go, how often you drive, and how willing you are to stay active. This is one reason the Model 2 still has real potential, even after so much rumor fatigue. If Tesla positions the seat a little higher than the Model 3, widens the door opening, and keeps the step-in motion natural, that solves a problem older men actually care about. Nobody at your age needs a car that looks athletic if it feels punishing. You need a car that lets you sit down and stand up without making you negotiate with your own joints. That is dignity in mechanical form. And there's another layer here. A good door opening is not just about comfort. It's about control in tight spaces. Grocery store parking lots, pharmacy pickups, narrow garages, bad knees, windy weather. If you can't open the door wide enough, or the sill is awkward, or the shape forces a twist that strains your back, the car is quietly taking freedom away from you. So yes, door angle matters. Seat height matters. Grab points matter. People laugh at these details until age turns them into deal breakers. What happens if Tesla pairs that with a cleaner driving position and better outward visibility? Then the Model 2 starts to address a fear many older drivers never phrase directly. The fear of feeling clumsy in a world designed for younger bodies. A well-designed cabin can take that fear down. A poorly designed one amplifies it every day. Technology should help, not hover. Now we come to the most emotionally charged part of this conversation: driver assistance. Some older viewers hate it. Some are curious about it. Most are nervous about it. And honestly, that nervousness makes sense. A lot of people are not afraid of technology itself. They're afraid of losing the final vote. They do not want a car that second-guesses them, scolds them, or suddenly makes a decision they did not ask for. That's why Tesla has to be very careful with how the Model 2 handles assisted driving. If the system feels like a helpful co-pilot, older drivers will accept it. If it feels like an overconfident intern grabbing the wheel, they will reject it. Simple as that. There is a huge difference between support and intrusion. Support reduces fatigue in traffic. Intrusion creates mistrust. Once mistrust enters the cabin, every chime feels louder, and every correction feels personal. The ideal setup is not mystery. It is clarity. One clearly marked way to activate assistance. One clearly visible signal that it is on. One clear warning when the driver needs to take over. No hidden menus, no vague language, no sense that the car is doing something behind your back. In other words, older drivers do not need perfect autonomy. They need predictable behavior. They need to know who is in charge at all times. That might be the biggest test of the Model 2. Not range, not charging speed, not even price. Trust. Can an older driver use the advanced features without feeling watched, judged, or replaced? Can he turn them off without the system turning them back on like a stubborn appliance? Can he decide on his own terms when help is helpful? If Tesla solves that, it wins something more valuable than headlines. It wins the confidence of men who have spent decades making their own decisions and don't plan to give that up now. The emergency test. Every serious retirement age buyer eventually asks a darker question. What happens when something goes wrong? Power failure, dead battery, heavy rain, extreme heat. A bad stop on a lonely road. This is where marketing slogans collapse and real engineering starts to matter. A useful, affordable EV for older drivers needs one thing above all in an emergency: mechanical honesty. If the main power system fails, can you still open the door? If a screen goes blank, can you still do the basics? If the weather is brutal, can the cabin stay safe long enough for help to arrive? If you bump a curb or scrape debris underneath, does the vehicle warn you clearly, or does it hide the danger behind code language no normal person can understand? This is why manual backup door release matters more than people think. Younger viewers hear that and shrug. Older men do not. They imagine their wife in the passenger seat. They imagine a bad intersection. They imagine smoke, confusion, panic, or water. Suddenly, a tiny mechanical lever becomes the difference between confidence and dread. That is not paranoia. That is mature risk assessment. Tesla has the opportunity to make the Model 2 feel less like a gadget and more like a dependable machine by building in simple fail-safes that older drivers can understand without a manual. A visible backup release, a clear low-power mode, physical hazard activation, emergency window controls, a cabin alert system that uses plain English instead of cryptic symbols. In a crisis, elegance is not what saves you. Clarity saves you. Heat, cold, and the places real people live. Another reason older viewers are skeptical about electric cars is that they do not buy transportation in laboratory conditions. They buy transportation for Arizona parking lots, Midwest winters, Florida humidity, and long stretches of ordinary American inconvenience. Your technology is only as good as its behavior on a bad day. So if Tesla wants the Model 2 to become a real retirement age success, it has to address climate honesty. How much range do you lose in cold weather? How fast can the cabin warm up? Will the door handles work after a freezing night? In brutal heat, will the battery stay calm? Will the cabin remain livable if traffic stops for a long time? Does the vehicle preserve enough reserve power to keep the essentials running while you wait? You do not have to be anti-EV to ask those questions. You just have to be old enough to know that weather can turn a minor weakness into a major problem. This is why a realistic thermal management package could matter more than another fancy screen trick. If the Model 2 can precondition smartly, protect battery health, keep cabin controls intuitive, and communicate range loss honestly, it stops feeling like hype and starts feeling like a practical tool. And let me say something that many channels do not say enough. Older drivers are not resistant to change because they are stubborn. They are resistant to unreliable change because they have already paid for too many mistakes in life.
That is wisdom, not weakness. If Tesla respects that wisdom, the Model 2 can become believable. The hidden battle over repair. There is another fear underneath all of this: service lock-in. A lot of older men grew up in a world where a car could be understood, inspected, and at least partly handled by a local mechanic they trusted. Modern vehicles have taken that sense of ownership away. Too many sensors, too much software, too many sealed systems, too many expensive surprises. That is why the Model 2 cannot just be simple to drive, it has to be simple to live with. If Tesla uses smarter modular repair ideas, affordable wear items, clearer diagnostic language, and stronger remote support, that could reduce one of the biggest emotional costs in modern car ownership. The feeling that when something goes wrong, you are trapped in a chain of people, apps, and service appointments that you cannot control.
Nobody expects an electric car to become a pickup from 1985. That's not realistic. But there is a middle ground between old school mechanical transparency and modern sealed complexity. Tesla could move toward that middle ground by making the Model 2 easier to understand after purchase, not just easier to advertise before purchase. Those are not the same thing. And remember, older buyers do not panic because something breaks. They panic because they don't know what the failure means, how urgent it is, how much it will cost, and how long they will lose access to the vehicle. Uncertainty is expensive. If Tesla can reduce uncertainty, that alone becomes a major value proposition. The scam filter. There is one more reason this topic matters so much to older viewers. Trust has become expensive. Too many channels blur the line between confirmed information, informed speculation, and pure fantasy. Too many thumbnails talk like the deal already exists. Too many voices sound confident long before the facts deserve confidence. That may entertain a younger audience for a while, but older men hear a different message. They hear risk. They hear pressure. They hear the possibility of being nudged toward a mistake. So the Model 2 needs a scam filter before it needs a fan club. If reservations are not official, say so. If a feature is still speculative, say so. If a rumored control layout sounds promising but unproven, say so. That kind of honesty does not weaken a video. It strengthens the relationship with the viewer. Older drivers do not need a salesman. They need a translator, and sometimes a gatekeeper. The moment a channel sounds like it is rushing them, they stop listening. The moment it sounds like it is protecting them, they lean in. That matters for Tesla, too. A company that wants retirement age trust has to communicate like a company that understands caution. No pressure language, no fake urgency, no emotional ambush. Just clear facts, realistic limits, and enough humility to admit what is still unknown. That is how a promising car becomes a trusted tool, not another source of anxiety. Who this car could be for. So, after all of that, who actually benefits if Tesla gets this formula right? First, the older driver, who is tired of complexity for complexity's sake. The man who does not need to impress anybody and would gladly trade one flashy feature for 5 years of easier ownership. Second, the buyer who wants some intelligent assistance but refuses to surrender final authority. Third, the retiree or near retiree who sees transportation as independence, not entertainment. And fourth, the person who knows his body has changed and wants a vehicle designed with that reality in mind. But there are also people who should be careful. If you need guaranteed nationwide fast repair in remote areas today, wait. If you hate any software dependency at all, wait. If you are expecting zero compromise because the price sounds low, wait. And if you believe every leak the moment it appears online, stop and breathe. That is exactly how older buyers get manipulated. A strong decision starts with emotional discipline. I think that is the fairest way to look at the Model 2 right now. Not as a miracle, not as a scam, as a serious possibility that still has to pass the older driver test. Does it reduce friction? Does it protect dignity? Does it keep the human being in charge? Those are the questions that matter. The bottom line, if Tesla wants the Model 2 to become the car older American men actually trust, it cannot just be cheap. It has to feel calm. It has to feel readable. It has to feel physically forgiving. It has to feel honest when things go wrong. And above all, it has to feel like a tool that gives freedom back, rather than quietly taking it away. That is why I believe the real future of the Model 2 will not be decided by launch day applause or rumor-driven hype. It will be decided in thousands of ordinary moments, in driveways, in parking lots, in rain, in heat, in tired hands reaching for one simple control after a long day. If Tesla remembers that, the Model 2 could become something rare in modern transportation. Not just a new EV, but a car that older drivers can live with, trust, and keep for years without resentment. Now, I want to hear from you. If Tesla released the Model 2 tomorrow, what would matter most to you? First, physical buttons? Easier entry and exit? Simple emergency controls? Or the ability to turn driver assistance off completely? Put just one answer in the comments. That one word will tell me exactly where this community stands. And if this video saved you from one bad assumption, subscribe now, because the next video in this series goes deeper into the part most channels still avoid: the real 10-year ownership test, insurance, repairs, battery aging, and whether an affordable Tesla stays affordable after the honeymoon ends. If you are tired of hype and want calm analysis built for older drivers, stay with me. This series is not about chasing rumors. It is about protecting your money, your confidence, and your independence while the industry changes around you.